Some years ago, I watched an 8-hour, two-part documentary on the Dust Bowl produced and directed by Ken Burns for PBS. It reminded me how Mom used to talk about her childhood days at school when it would get so dusty that they would write their names on the school desks. Regrettably, I never asked Mom about her Oklahoma history, so I guess I'm going to have to reconstruct this myself. My great-grandpa Amos Lambright was born November 20th, 1872 in LaGrange County, Indiana. Shortly after that, he and his wife Susan, also from Indiana, moved to Hutchinson, Kansas. In trying to determine just when Amos would have moved to Kansas, his first daughter, Sarah, was born in Indiana in 1893. 2 years later, in 1895, Jacob was born in Hutchinson, Kansas, followed by Joe, back in Indiana, born in 1897. It looks like my great-grandpa Amos only lived in Kansas sometime between the years in late 93 to early 97. So the big question to me now is, how did the Lambright family wind up in Oklahoma? Remember, Mom was born in Oklahoma. In a conversation I had with my Uncle Freeman, I was told that Jacob was in his early 20s and followed the harvest out and through Kansas and Oklahoma. This is where he met my grandma, Alma Gingrich, who was born in Mississippi. My grandpa Jake would have been 1 month shy of his 24th birthday when he got married on the 5th of October, 1919, and for whatever reason, they settled in Thomas, Oklahoma, which is just west of Oklahoma City. They started their family there in Thomas, Oklahoma, in Custer County, with the birth of Amos in 1920, my mom Edna in 1922, Mabel in 1924, she's the one screaming there, and Floyd in 1926. The 1930 census you're looking at shows that Elmer was born in Indiana in 1929. The Lambright directory says 1928, so there's some discrepancy there. With all these names and dates I've given you, what's important to remember from this is that with Elmer having been born in 1928, that means it's very likely that in 1927 or early 28, Jake and Alma moved back to Indiana. So what had prompted their decision to move back to Indiana from Thomas, Oklahoma? Remember the Dust Bowl this video started with? I decided to get on the phone and call my Uncle Freeman back in northern Indiana to see what he knew about the situation. And here's what he told me.
And it came in because of the depression out there and that sand dust storm, it just simply ran them right out of there. They couldn't raise anything. It drifted that stuff like snow.
Yeah, I watched a documentary on PBS about it. It was pretty incredible.
It didn't rain. They couldn't raise anything, and they couldn't make a living anymore. They lost everything they had. And they said that a realtor from Indiana came out there and told them that he had the Garden of Eden in Indiana, and they should put everything on a train that they had and head for Indiana. But not just for them, but for others, a lot of the people. And that's what they did. And ended up coming to Eden Township. Eden Township was actually called because it's supposed to be the Garden of Eden. I mean, they said it was that the growing conditions were that great, I guess, so forth, in the economy and what have you. And I think then he paid $175 an acre for the land there at Topeka. And Grandpa, which had been great-grandpa, told him, he said, "Son, you'll never make it. You're making a mistake." But it was probably the best investment he ever made. That's kind of the story that I've got that I remember from hearing it from Grandpa when I used to be milking there. He'd sit there and talk about it, and Mom used to tell me some. I wish I'd gotten more information on it.
I could talk to my great-grandfathers, I would say the old times are gone. So much has changed. But love, like the wind, is still here. When all else fades away, faith, hope, and love will remain. Those feelings that are so strong, so mysterious, will always be with us. I think of you, my relatives, and I thank you. I thank you.